Hi, y'all. Katie Parker, alcoholic. My golly, I love someone that loves the state of Texas. Wow! It's a real treat to be here. We've actually had a whirlwind week. Can everyone hear me fine? Good. I really don't need a microphone, but I've been sober since October the 28th of 1984, and for that I'm very grateful. It's pretty. Thank you. I love to tease my husband. I have 5.5 months more than he does, and people say time doesn't matter. It damn sure does, okay? I tell you. So when there's trouble in our house, I tell him, honey, in about 5.5 months, you'll understand it. Just saying, you know. But Charlie, stand up so everybody can see you. There's my husband. He was the one getting me hot water. I can't drink cold water. I just freeze to death. It doesn't matter how hot it is in your state, man. I freeze to death. So I'm like, get me some hot water. And so he skedaddled out of there and got it for me. I know he's wonderful. He takes very good care of me. And somebody needs to. So, but you know, it is a real privilege to be here, guys. It's a privilege to be behind the podium anytime for Alcoholics Anonymous. It's an honor to be able to share my experience, strength, and hope. But I have to tell you, when I've been sober for 28 years, and one of the things that I can tell you is I've done a lot of things wrong, lots of things wrong in Alcoholics Anonymous. And you'll hear that in my story. You know, it's kind of one of those things that you just, when you've been around a long time, the thing about time, what matters is your experience, you know? I mean, we're a pretty screwed up, messed up crowd of people, you know what I mean? I mean, you guys are my people, don't get me wrong, but, you know, when you hear our stories, you're like, dang. And I want to tell you, I've been talking with Dina, and she's been a wonderful host, and I absolutely am crazy about your tapers, Rusty and Carolyn. They are wonderful people, and I hope everybody continues to support the tapers. I'd be absolutely lost without them, I'm telling you. There are some of my heroes are on tape, and we won't all be around forever. And so I think it is very, very important for us to support the tapers any way that we possibly can. You're in for a real treat with Adam. I don't think Adam's here yet, or if he is, he better be in this room. But I don't think he's flown in yet, and he and I had the privilege of speaking together just back in March at the West Valley Roundup. And I got to tell you, I am so geographically challenged that I assume when you're in the desert, it's always hot. That's incorrect. Just, I'm sure y'all know that. I didn't know that. So at the West Valley Roundup, you know, I'm bringing basically, you know, summer attire. And what I realized is that first of all, we're camping. Didn't know that. Penny and I don't know how in the world we missed that one. But I mean, I got stilettos and everything that I'm talking in, you know. That is a problem. And, I mean, every time I'd make a point, my heels would dig into that sand, you know. But I swear, I didn't realize I needed to bring a suitcase to the camp out because, I mean, I started with shorts, then I felt I needed to be in a bikini, and then in the evening I needed a parka. You know what I mean? It was like, oh, my God, I'm freezing. And so here, I bring 4 coats. 4! Well, there's obviously something called a monsoon, and it stays hot at night now. When did that happen? I told my husband, I said, no, I wonder I had to take 2 bags. I got 4 coats in there. So we're in Tucson yesterday doing a little workshop, and I brought my jacket because I know it gets cold in the desert at night. You're not fooling me twice, man. So I carry my jacket into the conference, you know, and when I get ready to leave, I put it on, tie it up, you know, and I walk out, and I'm like, oh, God. Baffled again. But we did a little workshop last night in Tucson, and you know, it's funny. People think Texas is flat and ugly. And it's not Austin, Texas. Austin, Texas is absolutely beautiful. It's the rolling hills. If any of you guys went to the International in San Antonio, you know what I'm talking about. Let me tell you, there is a big difference between Tucson and Scottsdale. Just saying. You just got to look around. It was like, okay, these are 2 very different communities, you know. We did get an opportunity to go to a treatment center, and that was really cool, and did a little talk to the people at the treatment center. You know, I hope you guys do that work. That level of service is pretty outstanding. It's crucial. But it's really outstanding, and I'm telling you what, we were more than they could handle. First of all, they weren't expecting us, so that was that's pretty traditional in the treatment centers, wouldn't you agree? That, you know, you come in and you say we're coming in, and we think we're big stuff when we come in, right? And they're going, who are you? Don't you know who I am? And so they get on the loudspeaker and they call all the clients in, and the clients are not happy. You could tell they were probably doing, you know, some sort of dream work or something back there, you know. I swear they all walk in doing this. I thought, oh, this is going to be fun. But it was really something. And and then one other thing I did this morning, you know, being in the desert, I mean, it is the desert. Okay, let's make that real clear. Being in the desert, I thought, you know, this morning I said, honey, I'm going to go for a quick little run. You know, I thought, no big deal. He goes, watch, right when I go, he goes, watch out for snakes. I mean, there's a road runner and lizards, and you get this dry right here. You're like, oh, my God. I get back to the room. I take off my little fitness apparel, and I'm already tan. I'm like, whoa. Oh, and it is not a cute tan, okay? Well, I don't know what you guys exercise in outside, but it's all dangerous. Okay, let me get down to business here. So my home group is the Primary Purpose Group in Austin, Texas. We study the big book line by line, week after week, and it really is pretty amazing. It's a fabulous home group, and one of the things is I've always been there's been, in my sobriety, I've been in the book and I've been out of the book. And I'm a fan of being back in the book. But one of the cool things about the Primary Purpose Group is we have 225 people coming once a week to study the big book. Isn't that awesome? I know it. You know what? I'm telling you, yeah, you bet, man. I'm, you know, nothing against all the other meetings, but it's pretty exciting to be able to have a literature-based meeting where you got people coming and wanting to do the deal. I also have 2 children. My oldest daughter is 34. My youngest is 24. I have 3 beautiful grandchildren. And I don't know if you guys have. How many of y'all have grandchildren? I mean, we're pretty darn proud of that, aren't we? That is like God's do-over, isn't it? I swear, for the alcoholic, it's like, wow! I swear, Max is so funny. He's the oldest one. He's going to be 7. He'll say, Graham, can I have a popsicle before dinner? I'm like, I have 3. I mean, I don't care. Run with the scissors. It's fine, you know? Oh, my God. I swear, I just love it. We go to the store. I tell him, I'm going to get you some candy before dinner. Do not tell your parents. And so when we come in the house, he goes, Graham, my hand's all sticky. I'm like, nix nay on the sticky, man. Rat me out. I swear his dad goes, why's your hand sticky? Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Well, what the other thing about me, and this is not hard to figure out, my husband says I'm a little bit like taking a drink from a fire hose. You might get a little bit more than you were expecting, okay? So I'm warning you ahead of time. One of the things I can tell you guys is I feel like I am the vessel to get you connected to the power. Whenever I'm working with somebody, that's my job. I am merely the vessel to get you connected to the power. I am not the power. I don't ever want to be the power. I don't ever want to make decisions for you. I am merely the vessel to get you connected to the power. Today, at 28 years sober, I can tell you I have a message of depth and weight. No doubt about it. I am armed with the facts about myself. And as you'll hear, one of the things I like to do, one of the things I learned, and Mark Houston was one of my biggest mentors, is that he taught me that there is every answer to every problem I have is in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. There was a time I didn't believe that, and today I do understand that to be true. I'm not so much into saying, telling you in a general way what I was like, what happened, what I'm like now. I like another line out of the book. It says, each individual in the personal stories describes in his own language and from his own point of view the way he established his relationship with God. These are a fair cross-section of our membership and a clear-cut idea of what actually happened in their lives. My story is much more about in sobriety. I think for me, it's just got a lot more power, and so that's what I'd like to share with you. I'll certainly qualify myself, but I'd like to share more of what it was like when I was sober. You with me? Okay. Yeah. I swear. That's what when you're 28 years sober, you go, okay, so how are you doing it now? How are you not getting arrested sober? I mean, we get arrested sober. You know what I'm saying? And some of us can never have been arrested drinking and get arrested sober. That's always a dandy. I was born in 1958, and like I said, I'm 55 years old. I got sober when I was 26, and I always knew as a child I was absolutely driven. I mean driven. I'm third born, and there was three of us. We're all 2 years apart, and I mean I was driven as a kid to get what I think I needed. I always felt like I was being cheated out of something, and I always had to be first in line, and I mean that drivenness. Now, I would never even think to talk about that, except that the whole purpose of the inventory process, the whole purpose of our work is to look back and see, right? Is to lay this book up against my experience and see if that is true for me. So one of the things that happened was when I was 8 years old, my mother died very unexpectedly of a kidney disease, and it was devastating to the family. We were upper middle America, living in Houston, Texas. My dad was an ex-NFL football player. So, I mean, oh my God, there's nothing better than having an ex-NFL football player as a father. We had some fun. I mean, wow! Everything was fun. It's a bunch of boys that never grow up, and it was just great. One time we had the entire Buffalo Bills at our house. I mean, it was great. And I loved that atmosphere. I loved the party atmosphere. I got a tremendous amount of cool ideas out of my dad. He was just a fun-loving guy. But when my mother died, I'm 8 years old, and what happened was in an 18-month period, this is 1966, 67, when my mom died in a 3-month period, in an 18-month period, my dad remarried 3 times. Quite the player. And, but he also was looking for a mother for the children, right? And so he remarried 3 times, and he had 4 live-in housekeepers. So we had 7 women come through the door in 18 months. Now, I'm telling you, by the time between 8, I started drinking at 12. And by the time I started drinking and I got to the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, I would have told you that had that happened to you, you would have drank too, and that's what made me alcoholic, because I believed something had to make me alcoholic. I didn't get the whole allergy and mental obsession, and once I take the drink, I trigger the phenomenon of craving, you know what I mean? And that I've got this spiritual malady driving me. I mean, who talked like that? I mean, you go into the Texas chili parlor and you get a kamikaze. You know what I mean? You didn't go, well, let me tell you something, Bill. Boy, I tell you, I've been driven by that malady all day, and I know once I take that drink, it's going to trigger that phenomenon of craving, and I'm ready for the ride. I just took a drink. And then I'd swear to God I was getting home. And I didn't always make it home. See, I didn't understand all of that, but I would have told you that when my mother died, that's what made me alcoholic. Today, I understand it so differently. What happened in that experience of my life made me have a tremendous amount of old ideas. And every effect, everything that happened in your life, be it good or be it bad, affects our old ideas. The term in the book is old ideas. Today, more modern would be your belief system, right? And so I understand now that these old ideas I have on women, on marriage, on death, I mean, you name it, I got it. It's all in that third column of a 4-column inventory, right? How does it affect my self-esteem? How does it affect my pride, my ambition, my security? And all of those are my old ideas. I mean, it says it in how it works, that we have to get rid of our old ideas. The result was nil. And I don't even know I have an old idea until you really bug the crap out of me. I'm telling you, the minute I judge you, let's look at what old idea is driving you, Katie. And it's really interesting. I love the book says it's clear-cut directions. It says it's simple, not easy. Oh, it's simple to figure it out. To swallow and digest is a little more difficult. You see, it's not hard to pick out what's going on. And so that's what I didn't understand. So, I start drinking at 12 years old, and I had the same experience everyone else had. When I took that drink, it did something for me. Oh, God, I remember where I was standing. I remember what we were drinking. It was everything out of the bar that my dad had, and we called it a depth charge, and you drank Drank it, man, and it was delightful. Absolutely delightful. And it did something for me. Now, I didn't have the whole throw up experience and yada, 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 but I knew at that point that alcohol was going to be fun and we were going to get to it as often as we could. And one of the things, too, when you're 12 years old and you're drinking, come on, guys. I mean, it is not easy to get booze. You can only steal booze out of your parents' cabinet, as long as you can. And so I have a tremendous amount of experience with outside issues, but I'm also very respectful of singleness of purpose. And so I will say that was a little bit easier to get. But when we did go to get the booze, this is how we got it at 12. Me and my two girlfriends rode our little Schwinn bicycles down to the 7-Eleven, and we sat at that 7-Eleven and we waited for the creepy guy. You know the creepy guy, girls, yes? Now, I thought the creepy guy was about 100, but he was probably 29. And one of the things about that is so that cracks me up so much is, and don't get me wrong, the creepy guy's sitting in the room right now, and you know who you are. Yeah. The best part is you know who you are, and I know who you are. See, we women innately sense the creepy guy. I can turn my back and figure out which one of you guys is the creepy guy, because we've been given this innate sense, right? And but one of the things about that I think is so interesting is in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, we watch a lot of people. We see folks come in. Yes, is the fellowship changing a bit? Yes, I mean, of course it is. It's the nature of it's human nature. But one of the things that I think is so interesting is at 12 years old, it wasn't like I was down there selling Girl Scout cookies, guys. I'm already pretty seasoned, and so were my girlfriends. Are you with me on that? So that little 12-year-old was working that guy. And the thing I had to do was lose him. We knew that. He was in a car, we were on our bikes, and the woods were right there. So we grabbed it, and he wanted to come with us, right? Because he's creepy. And so we get into the woods and lose the guy. But fast forward, and what happens in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous is I think that same girl comes in, and if we're not careful, the prettier she is, the more ostracized she is from the women, and the men glom on her, especially the creepy guy. And so to me, I say we girls need to scoop them up, right? And so what I would like to say to you men, I am a woman behind the podium. I'd like to say to you men is to take that woman when she walks up to you, because she's going to work the same angle she worked at the 7-Eleven. She's going to tell you, I don't like women. Oh, that's the opening line. That's the hook. She set the hook, and you say, you know what? I understand that completely. I want to introduce you to Katie Parker. March her right over to me. Now, my job is I should have been on her first. I really should have. So I just want to throw that out there. I think that's an important piece, what happens in the rooms. We have a tendency to not go up to people and introduce ourselves immediately. You could be standing there at the coffee pot and 3 people get coffee and you don't say squat to them. It's like, this is a fatal illness, guys. Everyone needs to be welcomed. Say your name, shake their hand. When you've been around a while, you see that kind of not happening. Go into a meeting you don't normally go to. See how many people introduce themselves. See how many people make you feel at home. Just saying. So what ends up happening here now, keep in mind, I am really getting my drink on. I am really enjoying some outside issues, and I become a pain in the neck at home. Absolute pain in the neck. So I leave home at 15 years old. Now that, I'm telling you guys, to leave home at 15 years old and to be a girl out in that world, I was driven. I had managed to talk a woman into renting me a little house. I still continue to go to school. I didn't learn a darn thing. But by golly, I was going to get that diploma. And you know why? I'm a kid that's driven with pride. And one of the things was I was going to prove to you that I wasn't stupid. Now, I don't care about learning. I still don't care about learning. That's the interesting piece of this equation. This isn't your story, this is mine, but listen to this. I always knew I was smart. I wasn't book smart, but I knew I was talented and smart, street smart. And so I knew I could make a living, no doubt about it. But I just was not about geography, science, politics, art. A museum makes me ill. The thought of going into a museum is like, people are like, have you been to the Smithsonian? Yes, didn't do it. You know what I'm saying? But here's the deal. I wrote inventory when I came into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. I did get a diploma. But what ends up happening sometimes, we stand behind this podium and a lot of people hear the story that they went back to school and they got their education. And I always say, well, that's great, man. If you feel that alcoholism robbed you of your education and you want it, I'll be the biggest fan. But if you're doing it for the wrong motive, oh, it's dangerous. Matter of fact, I've seen people go back to school, grow right out of Alcoholics Anonymous because they can't handle it all. They can't handle work, school, family, and they're driven for the wrong reasons. I mean, today, I'm telling you what, I just don't care where Venezuela is. You know, I just don't. And you know, it's funny, I marry into a family of educators. I make them crazy, you know. Their favorite pastime is a museum. And so I've been to many, trust me. I've seen Mozart. Is it Mozart is the painter? Monet. Okay, I'm sorry. There's Monet, the guy who was obviously high when he painted. It's like, oh my God. And Picasso, whatever, you know, eyeball here. But, you know, I mean, you look at that stuff and you go, whatever. And so Charlie is, you know, a whole family of educators. And, you know, I'll ask him, I'll say, honey, you know, how do you spell? And he'll go, let's sound it out. I'm like, oh my God. No, I didn't ask you. Yeah, I just need to know the spelling, okay? Don't teach me anything. And then, you know, oh, I was with them, the whole family one time at summer solstice, and somebody looks it up on their phone and they're going to read what the summer solstice is. Who cares? I'm just saying. I swear. And I got a sponsee who is just like me. It's just amazing. But there's a guy from Norway comes into our meeting, and she says to me, there's several people standing around, and she says, is he from Norwegia? And I looked at her and I said, silly, he is Norwegian. And I swear the people standing around, they all go, huh? Oh boy. Well, I'll tell you guys, what ended up happening is my drinking got terribly out of control. I had a child. I mean, you talk about pitiful, incomprehensible demoralization. What qualifies me is when I start, I can't stop, and I can't stop starting, period. I mean, the whole thing goes bad. Child should have been taken from me. Child Protective Services should have come and got my daughter. It was terrible. I became a single mother, and you know the story. It's just ugly, dragging that little girl in places she shouldn't be. I ended up meeting this boy, and he said he was sober, and I chased him into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. He had 6 years. I had 10 minutes. Match made in heaven. And what ended up happening is I'm so glad nobody was the arbiter of our sex life, because he and I ended up being married for 20 years. And it was an amazing relationship. It was dicey, don't get me wrong, very, very dicey. Two alcoholics is always going to be dicey. But I like to call it passionate. Very passionate. But when I walked into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, oh my God, you guys, the laughter was something I had not felt in so long. And I absolutely, one of the lucky ones, I fell in love with the people in Alcoholics Anonymous. Always have. Loved the feeling of, you are my tribe, you are my tribe. Am I in the right place for tribe? Huh? Oh, yeah. Oh, what? I don't think there's Indians in Texas. How did that happen? You know what I mean? They're in Oklahoma, and they're in Arizona. They just went, whoop. But I'm sure that we talked about that in the 6th grade. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't paying attention. I just wasn't. But I will tell you, school was social for me, and I was voted most likable 4 years in a row. Okay, so here. So I come into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. I absolutely fall in love with you guys. I do everything you tell me to do. My God, I'm alive. I'm with people I love. We're having a blast. It's incredible. Joe keeps saying, Katie, this is wrong. It's all wrong. I'm 6 years. You're a newcomer. And I'm like going, no. Come into the light. Don't No, the sirens, no nonsense. Calm. And it worked. So, but what ended up happening is, this is where my story begins. I did everything you said. I sponsored, I did committees, I did everything. I worked the steps. I thought the steps were linear. I did not know they were circular. I did not know you're supposed to continue in steps 10 and 11. Didn't know it. Just thought it was something I was supposed to look at from time to time, periodically check my pulse, see what I'm doing. And what usually happens to most of us is we get the gifts of sobriety. Absolutely. I mean, my God, you stay sober and you start feeling better, you start working a little harder, you fall in love, you end up having more kids, whatever. The gifts of sobriety took me away from AA. And what I didn't realize, guys, is I thought that when I came in here, I heard that selfish and self-centered was a problem. I heard that. But I thought everything was applying to drinking. So I worked a program based on the abstinence of alcohol. See, if you told me alcohol was, I believed alcohol was the problem. Because when I drank it, I had a blast. And by the time it got out of hand, it was the problem, not me. So I missed this whole thing that selfishness and self-centeredness was the root of my problem. And I really believed it was alcohol because look at my life. I'm a successful businesswoman. I've married this great guy. We've had another baby. We got the white picket fence. And I'm actually feeling pretty good. Because you see, what I realize today is alcohol treats alcoholism. The 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous treats alcoholism. I thought that it was the alcohol was the problem. And what ended up happening is I came in the 80s, right? Oh my God. If you came in the 80s, you know that we were into codependency recovery therapy. We had some Mr. Bradshaw going on, and you had to deal with your inner child. And let me tell you, I have dealt with my inner child. My inner child has been nurtured to nauseam. And so what I did is I learned, get a load of what I did. I did codependency recovery group therapy for 10 years. Well, that should just be outlawed. There's just something wrong with that. Who keeps you for 10 years? Oh my God, I know more about some people in that group that nobody should know about. You know what I mean? But listen to this. And so what I learned from that was I needed to express my feelings. And let me tell you, you express your feelings to somebody you don't like, you feel better. You really do. It's a delusion. I tell you, I go, I just really didn't like what you did today, and it really hurt my feelings, so I'm going to go ahead and detach. And you walk away and you go, I am so proud of you, Katie. Yeah. And I didn't realize that, well, that's nowhere in the book, by the way, just FYI, if you're alcoholic. And so I love this line in the book because it's so powerful. It flies right in the face of everything I believed. And remember, 10 years of group therapy will give you some old ideas. And so, oh boy. And so I'm thinking this counseling is for life problems, right? Alcoholics Anonymous is for drinking. Counseling is for my life problems. And church was for God. That's what I thought. Nobody told me that. That was what I thought. And so listen to this, what's on page 19 and 20. It says, most of us sense the real tolerance of other people's shortcomings and viewpoints and a respect for their opinions or attitudes which make us more useful to others. What that's basically saying, to summarize, is that whatever bugs me about you is my guiding light. But what I do is if it bugs me about you, I just detach. I just separate. I stay away. I find a different home group because you're bugging me. I find a different job. I find a different guy. See, that's what we do, is detach. When I don't realize that that's actually the guiding light, because if I will take it into the steps, I'll see what the old idea is. I'll see what's driving me. I'll see all these things that the book tells me. This is crucial. God says, oh, don't look at those as a problem. Look at those as a solution. And now I didn't do that. See, I just went the wrong way. And then the next line is the real clincher. It says, our very lives as ex-problem drinkers depends upon the constant thought of others and how I may meet their needs. Shut up. So that was very, very interesting. Well, at 3 years sober, Joe says to me, honey, I'd like to go to church. I'm like, well, I don't really have anything pros and cons about church, but, I really, no. Mm-mm. And he goes, no, I found a really cool church. You're going to love it. And I thought, okay, fine, I'll try it. So we go into this non-denominational church. Now, I don't know if you've ever experienced one of those, but I was raised Catholic. Nothing against Catholic at all. But it's the guys speaking it in Latin. You know what I mean? I kept thinking it was Irish, but it's Latin and whatever. And, all this and, for an hour. And I just wanted to flick a booger on my sister. I mean, that's basically about what we were doing. And we walk into this church, and there's these two, overhead screens. And oh my God, the music. And the next thing I'm walking in going, woohoo! Okay, if this is what it's about, now wait a second. And then the next thing you know, man, I found Jesus. I mean, woo! I was on fire with Jesus. And I mean, no disrespect. Matter of fact, if you take it disrespectful, please write some inventory on it. I don't mean it disrespectful. I found Jesus, and I felt it necessary for you to find Jesus. And that is never good. And you know that Jesus freak, right? The one who's trying to get you to, you're a sinner. Poor baby, I'm just picking on you, aren't I? You're a sinner, and I needed to come back and save these heathen alcoholics. And they needed to be saved. And so, needless to say, nobody was my friend for very long, except Charlie. Charlie remained my friend. And so, long story short, I mean, I think alcoholics are chameleons. You need me to be at the PTA? I can look like I belong. You need me to be at the biker rally? Oh, I can definitely belong. Where do you need me to be, and how do you need me to look? Because I'm a chameleon. So before you know it, Joe and I, we have a picture of us where we look Amish. He's got his hair swooped here. He's a dope fiend, oh my God, I mean, I even started wearing underwear, okay? That's a big deal. And what happened is we still loved our AA friends, but we just felt we had grown out of the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous and that we needed to enlarge our spiritual life. I love what it says in the book on page 14. For if an alcoholic fails to enlarge his spiritual life through work and self-sacrifice for others, he will not be able to handle certain trials and low spots ahead. Wowza, did I not know what that meant. I didn't realize that for me, the work meant stay in the work. And for me to help God's kids. That is my primary purpose. You want to go do breast cancer? You want to go save feed the hungry? Have at it, man. That's good stuff. But my primary purpose is to help a drunk. And I missed all that. Once again, I missed a lot of things. It's interesting, too, because I'm not in the Bible Belt here, right? Oh, my God. When I'm in the Bible Belt, they're kind of ruthless on that whole Jesus moment. But it says, and you know why I know that? Because I've written plenty of inventory on that one, okay? But it says, listen to this about Roland Hazard, right? When he met with Carl Jung and all of that. It says, and he's just been told he needs to have a vital spiritual experience, right? And Roland Hazard says, upon hearing this, our friend was somewhat relieved. Whew! He said, for he reflected that after all, he was a good church member. Says this hope, however, was destroyed by the doctor telling him that while his religious convictions were very good, in his case they did not spell the necessary vital experience. Says it right there. Doesn't mean that we don't do church. Doesn't mean I don't go sit in an ashram. It's whatever you choose to do. But Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12 steps must remain on top. And it is to be done in conjunction with. I miss that. And here's the other thing that I miss, guys. I've seen people pray and meditate their way right out of the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. I was one of them. I just missed it. So like I said, I hope my experience shows you all the things that I did and lay your experience up against it. See what happens. Well, after 3 years, now I'm 6 years sober. My husband always has 6 years and 10 minutes faster than I do, right? And so he is 12 years sober, and one day we come together and he says, my God, I'm not doing well. I said, Joe, I'm not doing well either. What are we going to do? And he goes, I think we need to go back to AA. And I said, I think we do too. And we went straight down to the meeting. We knew right where it was. Thank God. And we sat in that room and we saw all our friends. And the next thing you know, I put my hand on his leg, and I said, "Oh my God, honey, we're home." It was the moment I felt that peace, and you know what I'm talking about. And he said, "I know it." And I'd love to tell you from that moment on, we skipped down the yellow brick road. Oh, boy. Well, you wouldn't really have me as a speaker. I'd be talking all about my drinking, but let me tell you what ended up happening. He and I don't know why this happened, but it happened. We never picked our big books up again. Just didn't. Thought we had arrived, thought we got what we needed, and we entered into what I call meeting-based sobriety, where I'm just going to the meetings. And I pretty much need one every day. Because what I was getting was relief at a meeting. I was not getting freedom because I was not getting connected to the power. Now, I've always been a seeker. I mean, I was doing Bible study fellowship. I'm still seeking, man. I'm reading spiritual literature and I'm doing all this stuff, but I am blocked. I am so blocked. I've not written an inventory. I've not done a 10-step. I haven't looked at an evening review. My prayer and meditation, whatever. You know what I mean? I mean, it's just all missing. And for the alcoholic, the ego of the alcoholic rebuilds at an astonishing rate. And I step away from that stuff and you cut off my airway. I can't breathe. And the next thing you know, I'm restless, irritable, and discontented. You know how I can tell that? Everybody bugs me. Everybody. In the grocery store, at the post office. Woo! Go ahead and stick one of us at the post office with one employee. I mean, we can't even be in the line. We're like, you can, I swear, here's what ends up happening, guys. On page 25, it says, if you are a serious alcoholic as we were, we believe there is no middle-of-the-road solution. We were in a position where life was becoming impossible. And if we had passed into this region from which there is no return through human aid, we had but two alternatives. One was to go on to the bitter end, blotting out our consciousness of our intolerable situation, and the other one was to accept spiritual help. I can assure you there is somebody sitting in this room that has an intolerable situation. There is somebody sitting in this room that is not laughing. Whenever I go to a meeting, I always look for the person not laughing. That's my job. I'm not looking to be the funny one in the meeting. I'm looking for the one not laughing. And after the meeting, my job is somebody who is armed with the facts about myself and have a message of depth and weight and take my primary purpose. I go over there to him and go, "Hey, are you doing okay?" No, "Yeah, it's kind of tough." I go, "You know what? Let's go sit out back." And I can pretty much quickly sum up the situation that they probably need to write inventory. They're either pissed off or self-pity. Well, you're going to write a 4-column inventory with me right here, right now. And I'm not stepping on the toes of their sponsor. I'm not even worried about that. My job is triage, man. I'm just trying to stop the bleeding. I don't know if that guy's going to go out and drink. I don't know if he's going to go out and kill himself. But I can tell you what, I've lived in those bedevilments on page 52. I know that pain. Everybody in this room knows the feeling of what it feels like of someone in their life that is in those bedevilments if they themselves are not in them. And we lose people in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, guys. Heck, I didn't know I'd hooked my wagon to middle-of-the-road AA. I just was doing what I thought I was doing. One of the ways you can always tell is it's kind of like God's will. It's like, God, you know what? I got this. I got this deal with my kids. I got this deal with my family. Take a knee, because God works too slowly. Tell me you're with me on that one. Oh, my God. Somebody goes, "Well, you need to turn it over." Shut up. Shut up. Did you not hear my problem? I need $200 by tomorrow at 9. Okay? I ain't bringing God into this one. Okay? I'm going to get my $200 however I can. And see, that's what I'm talking about is this leaving God out. I did all the time. Heck, I still do it today. Don't get me wrong. Oh, my gosh, I'm never saying I sprouted wings. If I have sprouted anything, it looks a little bit more like Nemo in that little flipper that he's got, oh, my God, I'm back into the Disney thing, can you tell, with the grandbabies? It's like, oh, my God, and what is SpongeBob? What is a SpongeBob? I don't even enjoy it. I don't like it at all. I'm like, put the Roadrunner on, man. Let's watch that. SpongeBob and all these stupid cartoons. But what ended up happening is this something that I see, and once again, I didn't know I was doing it, but I became a slogan slinger, right? And what slogan slingers are is they just sling the promises. Acceptance is the key. I've always believed that's, I used to say that all the time, so I know that's somebody who doesn't read the book, but they know that one place out of the book, right? So acceptance is the key. Well, what they're doing, and this is what I didn't know that I was doing, is they are offering me the promise. So when I give you my line of troubles, my woes, my drama of life, and you throw the promise at me, you're asking me to work the promise, expecting the steps to come true. It doesn't work that way. I must take the action in the step to get the promise. I can't act humble. Oh, the exterior looks it. But in here, there's no humility at all. Remember, we are the actors running the whole show. Oh, I can be the man on page 73 that fast. I can get you to think I'm something that I'm not. Poor little Jeff spent, 24 hours with Charlie and I, and he got way more than he was expecting. You know what I'm saying? There was a couple of times Charlie stopped and he went inside to get a soda, and I said, well, are these your two spiritual speakers you were expecting? You've already seen two little pretty good arguments and, this and that. But the truth is, man, I'm transparent. I've learned the more I tell you about me, the freer I am. I do the level of work. I'm telling you, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. So let me tell you what happened. So I'm doing this meeting-based sobriety. I don't know it. I'm an active member of it. I'm at the sickest AA group you can be at. I can always tell you a sick AA group. Now, you may not like this one, but they don't grow. Okay? They just don't grow. They stay very, very small and very, very sick. And so, and they can be big book thumpers that stay too small because they know the answer. See, it goes both ways. They can be saying, screw the book, or we love the book, but if it ain't growing, it ain't good. Are you with me on that? Please say yes. Oh, yeah. Oh, there's some people that go, get the hook. We don't like her. But the truth of the matter is when we are growing in this understanding and effectiveness, we are effective. And we can stand behind the righteousness of the book and kill people. And we can stand in the fact that the book is not necessary and kill people. You know what I'm saying? And I say kill people, I mean spiritually dead. I'm not saying dead. I'm just saying spiritually dead, which is what I was. And I sat in that group, and I made darn sure that I didn't like anybody. And so, because really, if you're that sick, you got to hang around sick people. You really do, because that whole thing feeds it. Now, I don't know I'm doing this. Well, then here's what happens. Remember I said on page 14, for if an alcoholic fails to enlarge his spiritual life through work and self-sacrifice, they can't handle certain trials and low spots ahead. Here comes my trials and low spots. My husband all of a sudden gets sick. We don't know what it is, but the doctor says there's something wrong with his head. And it's bad news. And so we have catastrophic insurance. We're both self-employed. And so somebody in my sick group, because we're all into management, right? When you're really, really sick, you're managing everybody. And everybody's giving you an idea of how to fix it because there's no God involved. He's off the table. And she says, Katie, you ought to become a bus driver. You get an instant HMO like that. And I went, really? Now remember, I left home at 15, man. I am a doer. I can bring home the bacon, fry it up in the pan. You know what I'm saying? When you scare me bad enough, back off. A sheriff is in town and you will be deputized. You know what I'm saying? I got it. Because I can do anything. See, that's what I didn't get. I did not get that all my life I was on self-reliance. And let me tell you, it served me well. It says in the book, self-reliance went very far. Many of us had a lot of self-confidence, but it does not solve the fear problem. The desert. That's attractive, isn't it? So what ended up happening is I go down and I get to this bus place, and this is how self-centered I am, guys. I go to this bus place. I get the job. I'm not thinking about the guy that's hiring me. I'm not thinking about the kids. I've got a whole nother career over here, right, that I'm making a buttload of money, but I'm not making enough money to pay doctor bills that I'm afraid I might be getting into. And so I'm not thinking about anybody, but this is what I'm going to do in my mind. We're going to go in there. We're going to get you what you need. He needed his head scanned. We're going to get your head scanned, and then I'm quitting this stupid bus job, right? Because that's what we do, because I'm not hurting anybody. Come on. Big old school district. How bad can that be? So I go down there, and I start, I get on that bus. I realize I'm already in over my head. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. I mean, please respect buses. That's all I can say. You got no idea what's happening on that bus. And do not ever send a sick child that says they're going to throw up on a bus, okay? Because what happens is when one throws up, they all throw up, okay? We got serious problems. I learned all of this. So I take Joe. We get him to the emergency room because that's going to get it done quicker. We take him in the emergency room. My GP says, Katie, now listen, this is what's going to happen. They're going to say touch his nose, touch his elbow. Be sure he fails those tests so that we can get his brain scanned. I said, listen, Joe, this is the deal. Fail the test. Because, see, I don't care. I don't care if I have to lie. See, you scare me bad enough, I lie like that. I lie like that sometimes with a good program. You scare me, you hurt, threaten, or interfere, and blah, just lie. Blah. And I will then decide if I'm going to even tell you that I just lied. I'm going to weigh it out. And if too much time goes by, then I'm going to embarrass myself. So we get in there, and the doctor's like, so he's got a brain tumor? Yes, he's got something, not a brain tumor. I said, yes, he's got something wrong with his head. We need it scanned. Like, come on, it happened. And the guy goes, well, let's just see. And he goes, Joe, touch your nose. And Joe touches his nose. See, thank you. I'm like, what are you doing? I'm standing behind the doctor, you know me. And he goes, touch your elbow. And Joe's like, oh, my God. I thought, oh, this is terrible. I swear to God, I'm not driving this school bus much longer. We're not getting out of here till he gets his head scanned. I don't care if I got to knock the doc out, put his white coat on, shove him in the tube, hit all the buttons. I'm not getting out of here till he gets his head. And so the next thing you know, the doctor asks him some math questions, and he says, well, basically, what's 2 plus 2? And Joe can't answer it. And he goes, okay, I'm going to go ahead and scan his brain. And so he goes in there, he goes to take Joe to scan his brain. We're waiting for the results, and that doc comes in, and I'm telling you guys what, I remember it like a moment ago. And he puts his arm right here, his hand, and he says, my God, he has a gigantic tumor in his head. He said it's about as big as your fist. And at that very moment, my very first thought was, by God, I'm going to be driving this damn bus for the rest of my life. Now, when the book talks about selfishness and self-centeredness, that we think is the root of our troubles. This is really bad news. You got it too, you see. I don't have more self-centeredness than you do. That's what makes me suffer from alcoholism. See, you scare me bad enough. Now, I don't act on that thought. I don't look at Joe and go, great, be driving this stupid bus now. Stupid. Of course I didn't do that. I'm loving on him. We're crying. It's devastating. But that's what I'm talking about, guys. The self-centeredness is, how does this affect me? We joke about it in AA. Oh, it's all about me. It's all about me. Oh, trust me, it's way bigger than that. See, I don't think too much of myself or too little of myself. All I think about is me. And I want to get off the bus. I'm on that bus for 3 years. 3 years. My husband, here's what's really challenging, guys. The whole story is just so sad. The best thing happens, it ends up being benign. They couldn't believe it. They couldn't believe it. It's benign, and he's going to live. He's going to have massive brain damage. He didn't get any physical damage, but he's not the same guy, but that's okay. He's my husband. I love him. We're going to do this deal because, see, we're going to do this deal. I committed that we're into this deal forever. But you see, the line says, for if an alcoholic fails to enlarge his spiritual life through work and self-sacrifice, we were seeking on the wrong path. We cannot handle certain trials and low spots ahead. And the sad news is we couldn't handle it. Both of us spun out of control. I didn't end up using, but he did. And he went back out after 23 years, and he died of a heroin overdose. And I mean to tell you, everything wonderful was coming our way. So when I talk about untreated alcoholism in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, I don't mean to point the finger at anybody, but lay your own experience up against this man. Because the way this disease works is it does not want you to work these steps. It wants to separate you from the steps. It wants to separate you from the fellowship. And so what you have to end up doing is when we work these steps, we stay in this spiritual place that we are safe and protected, position of neutrality. I didn't know any of this stuff. I had no idea how close to the edge I was because, see, my problems had gotten so bad, they weren't alcoholism. I mean, they weren't alcohol anymore. My problems were way too big for that. I had no idea that the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous would solve my problems. I know what AA has to offer. Get out of my face. I got big problems over here. I got pain like nobody's business. Well, before Joe died, too, my God, you guys, I drove that school bus for 3 years. I could tell you for the next 10 minutes the funny bus stories because I got plenty of them. But I do need to tell you a few because it kind of gets really heavy, you know what I mean? And you're out there going, holy smokes, I hadn't read my big book in a year. She's kind of freaking me out, you know. So I'll lighten it up a little bit. But on that bus, oh my God. Now, keep in mind, I'm the kind of gal who breaks all the rules. Any rule breakers out there? Because the rules they just really don't apply to me. And when I'm in untreated alcoholism, they really don't apply. So the kids, what we would do, I was in a fairly affluent neighborhood, and there was a BMW, and you guys know, if you're on a school bus route, you know that bus is going to stop 10, 15 times, right? It's just a pain in the neck to get behind them. So you know what time that bus is coming. You're going to get up early. You're going to get out quick. So I swear to God, this BMW was just hell-bent on driving 100 miles an hour to beat me before the bus stop. And it pissed me off because he was risking those kids' life. So every time I'd see him, not even at a bus stop, I just popped those reds out, you know what I mean? That stops him. And I swear to God, he'd and I do, this is what I do to him. I look at him and go, who's got the power now, buddy? Huh? And he would always do this. Oh my, I have hundreds of those because there's a lot of power in that stop sign, man. You can run the world with that. And I'm telling you what, I am not kidding when I say I'm the sheriff. I always tell people, just give me a gun and a badge. I will get everything lined up. You know what I mean? And my other one that was so much fun was, there was one stop, I had these 5 little boys that were the last ones on my route, and there was these 2 humps that you'd go down, and you had to come to an immediate stop and then take a right, and I could go pretty fast. I had a gas bus. I liked this trashed out bus because it was gas and diesel's too slow, and so I loved the gas bus, and the boys would go, come on, Miss Kate, go fast, and you could get a little bit of air, and, you could, and these kids would, if you went really fast enough, these kids would, wow, and you could get them about 5 seats over, and I mean, that's pretty comical, and they're boys, come on. So I told them, I said, okay, everybody get down, and I got to look around because, I can't lose this job, and so, you just, man, and I mean, I don't know what happened, but we went airborne. And when that baby came down, all of a sudden it just went, woof. And I'm like this, and these kids go. First of all, they're like, wow! And then they look up, and I'm like, what just happened? And I swear to God, we go to the back of the bus, and I have blown all 4 valve stems. Oh, my God. Now, let me tell you something. Those kids were like rats on a sinking ship, man. They, pew! And I'm standing there thinking, oh my God, this is so bad. So I get on the radio, it's like turtle bus to base. They go, yeah, go ahead, base here. I said, man, I don't know what happened. But all 4 of my valve stems blew off the back end of my bus, and And the boss always carried that walkie-talkie, and you heard him go, "What?" So I'm not going anywhere, right? I mean, I'm dead in the water. And so the mechanic comes, and my boss, everybody comes, and I swear to God, this is what they did. You'll love this moment. They stand there, they look at the valve stems. You don't know what happened? No, I do not. And it's that moment that they know you're lying, and I know I'm lying. But you see, I couldn't lose that job. So I always say, we can lie. Oh, yeah, we can lie. You scare me bad enough, and I'm going to lie. And so there's some, I got tons of them, but I got to keep moving on. So, but here's the bedevilments I lived in before Joe died. Oh, my God. Before Joe died, I lived in these bedevilments, and after Joe died, they were devastating. On page 52, it says we were having trouble with our personal relationships. We couldn't control our emotional nature. We were prey to misery and depression. Remember, pretty much depression is self-pity. You know what I mean? Now, I'm not saying if you're depressed and you don't need an antidepressant, but I'm saying, could we possibly be a little over-medicated in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous? Yes. Okay? Especially if you're not working the 12 steps. I went down that road myself. I've got experience there. It says we couldn't make a living. We had a feeling of uselessness. We were full of fear. See, the new term is anxiety. I'm just so anxious all the time. You're full of fear. We were unhappy. We couldn't seem to be of real help to others. You see, when I was in the midst of these bedevilments, guys, I had 3 blow-in-the-bag anxiety attacks. Blow in the bag. I'd never had an anxiety attack in my life. At one point, my husband had such bad brain damage. While I'm having one, he hands me a plastic bag. Damn near killed me. You know what I mean? You know. Oh, but here's the tricky thing, is you see, when I don't know it's untreated alcoholism. Oh my gosh, how do you know what you don't know? And so I don't know this, but what I see happen, and I'm so grateful this didn't happen to me, is that people will do something as simple as go get a root canal. And, I mean, they just feel you need Vicodin for a root canal. Oh, for God's sakes, you need ibuprofen. You know what I mean? But they go, well, you're going to need a little Vicodin. Yeah. Why, yes, I am. Yes, I am. And if you could hit me on that gas a little harder, I'd appreciate it. I mean, have you ever been in that chair doing the gas and they go, slow your breathing down? You're like, oh, no. No, thank you. I'll be taking the tank with me. You know what I mean? And but what ends up happening is all of a sudden you get some simple procedure and you take the Vicodin. And you're in untreated alcoholism, the malady is all over you. It triggers the allergy, you don't know it, and in 6 months you're either getting more dental surgery or you're drinking vodka. And tons of people go out on pills, tons of them, because we don't know that we're vulnerable to that, because we're saying things like I'd say, well, I'm not drinking, for God's sakes. But that's what was going on, guys, and that's the tricky thing. And then when Joe dies, my God, you almost lost me. It was 18 months of the most darkest days of my life. Oh, my God, I was scaring the crap out of my youngest son. He was a teenager now, and he'd open the door, and the room was black, and it's like, shut the door! Just leave me alone! I mean, it was dark. You know what I'm talking about. You suffer from alcoholism. There are some dark days for some of us. Dark. And I end up finding this gal. She's in untreated alcoholism, you know. But here's the beautiful thing: when two people's hearts in the right place, God takes up a ton of slack. You know, don't wait till you know everything. I'm telling you, it doesn't have to be that way. I get this girl, and she knows Joe. She knows the situation, and here's what ends up happening. She says, Katie, I tell her what's going on, and she says, you know, I want you to read pages 60 to 63 in the big book. And, I couldn't even find my book, you know what I mean? I had to dig around, and I finally found it. And I thought, well, surely that's a spot in the book that tells you that some of us have it harder than others, and it's going to be tough. And, you know, I'm sure that was in the book somewhere. Hadn't read the book in 10 years, but I know it's in there somewhere. And I flip over to page 62, and what do I see? Selfishness and self-centeredness is the root of our troubles. Now, you know the kind of personality I got. The way self shows up for me is I take a step forward when I get scared. If you don't show up that way, if you're quiet and you don't say anything, that's just how self shows up for you. Doesn't make you any less alcoholic than I am. It's just the different ways that self manifests, right? So I pick up the phone and I go, well, first of all, I called her several cuss words before I picked up the phone. And I said, Marty, do you realize what it says on page 60 to 63? And she says, Katie, I know, but I need to tell you there's a fine line between sorrow and self-pity. And you've gone into self-pity. And I don't know why I could hear it from her, but boy, by God, I did. And from that point on, let me tell you, that girl stayed in the book. And she stayed in the book to save my life. And you fast forward 8 years later, and I'm telling you what, she and I are powerhouse people in AA. You got somebody that can't get sober, we're going to give it our best shot, man. We sponsor half the damn country. You know what I'm saying? Oh, my God. And it's unbelievable. It's a wonderful gift. It's a wonderful privilege. Because when I can sponsor a lot of people, you're bringing a mirror for me to see. And so the next thing you know, man, she is teaching me all about 60 to 63. She's telling me, Katie, that you got to realize, where did you set the ball in motion? Where did you make decisions based on self? Where am I a self-seeker even when trying to be kind? Where am I the producer of confusion rather than harmony? You see, my troubles have to be of my own making, period. They're not of someone else's. I'm not here to manage your problems. I'm here to tell you your problem. You see, I've got to be the one swallowing and digesting large chunks of truth about myself. And Marty was the greatest gift in the world for that. I'm a huge fan of doing tons of sponsorship. The question is, it's not how many is too many, it's can I handle one more? And what ends up happening is you come to me with a problem that is exactly what I'm going through, but I'm seeing it from your eyes. You see, I stay active in 10 steps, be it written, be it verbal. It's up to you. I don't know what your barometer is. I take that into the evening review. I take that stuff into my prayer and meditation. It says corrective measures. Measures is length. What are you taking? What length am I willing to go to get this freedom, this position of neutrality? To understand that I can match calamity with serenity. That I can be alone at perfect peace and ease. I can look the world in the eye. Oh my God, I've never been able to experience that. Man, I'm wound tight. Have you picked up on that? I'm just saying in case you hadn't. But one of the things I can tell you guys that I know for sure, that a moment of clarity is of no value if it is not followed by action. I ask you to lay your own experience up against my story. I'm telling you, I'm worried about middle management in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. I think there's a lot of message for the new guy. But I am scared to death for the guy that's got time. And all of a sudden, they don't need it anymore. They don't need what they used to need. That's what worries me, is middle management. So if you're not in the book, please get in the book. And if you are, I'll see you on the firing lines. Thank you so much.
Marvelous. Marvelous. Thank you so much.
You bet. Thank you.